When I first saw Saw My Spider So What while scrolling through Crunchyroll, I immediately thought it looked awful, and the idea of getting reincarnated as a spider sounded really dumb to me, so I didn't watch it for a while. It wasn't until I watched Chibi's first impression video of the first episode that I even considered watching it, but now that I have seen it, I can tell you that I was completely wrong, and it's actually really good. So the story, as I'm sure you probably already guessed, starts with a girl named Kumiko getting reincarnated in another world as a spider. We're not totally sure how she died, but it looks like it may have something to do with a possible explosion in her classroom. Anyways, Kumiko's not very happy about this because instead of getting reincarnated as a human or something cooler like an elf, she got reincarnated as a spider. Not only that, but she finds herself inside of a really dangerous cave where she has to go through some pretty intense stuff just to survive, like having to eat a dead spider that she's related to so she doesn't starve to death, and she has to kill and eat many other creatures that also try to kill her. But as she kills these different creatures, she gets XP that lets her level up and unlock skills just like a video game. And even though over time she does get more powerful and things get easier for her, one thing that I feel separates this isekai from other isekais is that the world she was reincarnated in is worse than her old world. In her past life, she was a shut-in who only ever went outside to go to school, and while in this world she's not a shut-in anymore because she doesn't really have a house, she has to struggle to survive pretty much every single day. And it's really interesting because usually in isekais, to some extent, the world they reincarnate in is better than the last. Like Mushoku Tensei, which I talked about last week, Rudy, while he does have some issues from his past life he still needs to deal with, his life is clearly better than before he got reincarnated. Whereas in Saw My Spider So What, Kumiko's life seems much worse. And I'm sure eventually she'll be happy about getting reincarnated in this world, but for the time being, it seems like it's pretty terrible. Now, one issue that I had with the anime is that it kind of drags out the time spent in the cave she starts in. Like in Reincarnated as a Slime, Rimuru is in the cave he starts in for like an episode and a half. But in Saw My Spider So What, Kumiko's in this cave for the first 12 episodes. So she's kind of off doing her own thing and not interacting with the rest of the world or the other characters. Yes, there are other characters, which I'll talk about later on in the video, but to make it so it's not so bad her being away from all the other characters, there's something they do in I think episode 7 that makes Kumiko have other people to interact with. Kinda? Let me explain. In the episode, Kumiko gets a new skill, and it basically splits her mind. So in her head, there's another her that takes on the role of controlling her body to fight, while she can think up strategies. So her fighting mind focuses on fighting, while her regular mind focuses on thinking. And as she upgrades this skill, she gets two other minds. One for focusing on magic, and another one to help with magic because it's pretty complex. So this kinda helps with her being away from all the other characters, because she has other hers she can interact with, and it's actually kinda funny seeing the different Kumikos interact with each other. And it reminds me a lot of My Next Life as a Villainess and Love is War Season 2, where Katarina has other hers in her head that talk with each other, and Kaguya in Love is War also has other hers that talk in her head. The only difference is that in those anime, it's used to show you how the characters are thinking. Whereas in Saw My Spider So What, Kumiko literally has other hers in her head. So I think if you go into the anime knowing she's going to be in the cave for a while, it probably won't feel as dragged out. Because for me, while I was watching, I kept thinking, when is she going to get out of the cave? And this made it drag out a little for me since I felt like I was just waiting for her to leave. But even though it drags out the time spent inside of the cave, there are some really cool moments in the cave. Like there's a lot of really good fights that happen in there, and there's a lot of really funny scenes that happen with Kumiko and the other Kumikos. So it's not like it's boring what happens inside the cave, but keeping in mind that she's going to spend a while in there and just enjoying what happens might make it better because you won't be wondering when is she going to leave. If you just enjoy it, it probably won't feel dragged out for you. And another issue I should mention is that the 3D animation is not the greatest. It's not bad, but in a lot of the combat scenes or when Kumiko's moving around a lot, it will switch from 2D to 3D and it feels a little jarring at times. And I think it's especially bad in the first episode since you're not used to it, but after that you start getting used to it, and I think they use it less after that episode, but I'm not sure. So just wanted to let you know that it doesn't always look great, but you get used to it. Now I want to talk about something really cool that the anime does, and this also leads me into talking about the other characters. So if you remember at the beginning of the video, I said it looked like Kumiko died in an explosion in her classroom. Well, not only her, but everyone in her class died and got reincarnated in this world. So the other characters we focus on are some of her reincarnated classmates, and they seem to have had better luck than our protagonists since most of them reincarnated as humans. The main one being Shun, a prince and brother to the hero, which seems kind of like a chosen one type thing. Like the hero is supposed to be this really strong person meant to save the kingdom or something like that, but he's his brother. There's also his friend Katia, who in her past life was a guy, so she's had to get used to being a girl this time. Then there's Hugo, who's also a prince and is kind of like Shun's rival, and is also a bit of an asshole. Their teacher was reincarnated too as an elf, and she kind of seems like she's hiding something. Like, she knows where all the students are in this world, but won't say where for some reason. So I'm really curious why and how she knows where everyone is, and what exactly she's hiding. Another one of their classmates that got reincarnated as a monster like Kumiko. Her name is Faye, and she got reincarnated as a dragon, but is a pretty small dragon. And in her past life, she bullied Kumiko a lot, so she feels that the reason she got reincarnated as a monster is because she's being punished for being mean to Kumiko, and she wants to find her so she can apologize. Then the last classmate that's introduced in the first episode is Hasabe. And in this world, when she first got reincarnated as a baby, she was abandoned by her parents at a church. So because of how she grew up, she's now very religious, and their religion believes that the voice you hear when you level up or get a new skill is God talking to you. So she's constantly trying to level up and get everyone around her to level up so they'll hear God's voice. Now, there are other reincarnated students that show up later on, but I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll just say that all the reincarnated students get wrapped up in some dangerous things going on. And I'm sure they'll eventually meet Kumiko too. But I really like that they did this because it's pretty unique, since we've never really had a group isekai where everyone dies and gets reincarnated. The only other ones that I can think of that have a group of people going to another world is SAO and Log Horizon, but those are people being trapped in a video game and they don't die to get there. So this is the first isekai I have ever seen where a whole group gets reincarnated in another world. And so far they're doing it really well. Also, surprisingly, there's some pretty interesting political stuff that happens in the anime with Shun and the other classmates. I hate politics in real life, but in anime it can be pretty interesting if it's done well, and this is one that actually does it pretty well. So overall, Solomon Spider So What is pretty good, and the main reason I'm making this video is to convince you guys to check it out, because I feel like a lot of people will not watch this just because of the title and synopsis, since it doesn't really look or sound all that great, but it does some really interesting and unique things, like the group isekai, and there's also something else the anime does that I've never seen before, but I won't talk about it because it would get into some major spoilers, and also what I think is going on hasn't been directly confirmed, but there's been some pretty big hints about it, and if it does happen, I think it's the only anime I've ever seen to do it, and it'll be really interesting. So anyways, don't sleep on So I'm a Spider So What. It's pretty good, and it looks like it's going in a really interesting direction. Also, before I go, I want to say thank you guys for the support you showed on last week's video. It's now the most viewed video on my channel, and it's also the fastest video to ever get that many views, and that's just crazy. So I just wanted to let you know that I really appreciate the support you all showed on that video. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video at all, please make sure to subscribe. It helps my channel out a lot, and I really appreciate it. So I'll see you next time in my next video. Bye.